best, or you're wasting your breath.
What's going on, folks? It's like the fifth time I've tried to record this, so hopefully this one goes better. My name's Casper. I produce music under the name Colonel Panic. If you've never heard of me, it's because I'm not famous. So, yeah, I don't expect that you have. If you have heard of me, man, thanks. I appreciate you listening to my music and following my shit, man. It's awesome. Today, I'm going to show you guys how I make remixes. Fun, right? Now, the reason that this is my first tutorial video, well, there's a lot of reasons, okay? First of all, I'm not going to try and teach y'all sound design. I don't fully understand it yet. What? Yeah, no, it's true. I'm learning. I've done some pretty good sound design stuff, but man, there's so many people out here teaching you guys how to do sound design, teaching you how to use Serum and Vital and all the awesome synths and other tools that there are out there to create sounds. I'm not really qualified to teach you that. I am qualified to teach you guys how to make remixes because I've been doing that for a little over a year and a half. And my most popular song, period, is a remix. It's a crazy remix, but it is a remix. So I kind of know what I'm doing in this space. Now, am I just the most excellent producer? I don't think so. I'm trying. I'm trying to get there. But, you guys can come with me. Shit. Take the journey together, right? So... So, okay, start with, we are going to make a remix. Now, the first thing you're going to need before anything else is this back here. Now, this is called a DAW, or a DAW, Digital Audio Workspace. This one is FL Studio. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Haha, if you catch that reference. FL Studio is not what I started on. I started on Adobe Audition, but for totally different reasons. When I used Audition, I was actually recording for a metal band and recording live vocals and things of that nature. So it's a little more suited for that. I would never really advise FL Studio for high level recording. You can record in here. It's possible, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as the best place to record if you're doing actual vocals. So, that being said, I love everything else about this DAW. Honestly, the first thing I loved was that it was absolutely free for me to start with. Now, yeah, that's a caveat. The edition that I'm using is not free. I've paid for this particular edition. But you get to start out in here for free. You can come in here and you can play around and you can create, and there's plenty of built-in generators. All of these fruity generators, you can use most of these and in the free version to start just seeing what you can do. Along with that, there's tons of places to get free samples. So if you're looking for drum kits and stuff, if you want specific stuff, you can get in here and find pretty much anything. There's a lot of free stuff. There's a lot of stuff you're going to pay for, and you're going to find that overall, the things that you pay for will be useful and more useful than a lot of the things you're not going to pay for. And that's just an honest outlook on this particular, say, hobby, or if you're trying to make it full time, this job, you have to invest in Okay, that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no easy way around it. You have to invest. If you want to actually produce music at a decently high level, you have to invest. You have to pay for things. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you can only get so far with free. But FL starts off in free. And free is great because it lets you know, hey, do I even want to try to do this? Is this going to be more work than I want to put in? You know, you might get in here and start playing around and be like, man, this is just overwhelming. This is too much. Like, I like listening to music, but I'm not sure I really want to make it. Like, I've had some cool tunes I hummed in my head, but I'm not sure if I'm up for this. And you may never want to do it again. Don't invest a ton of money into this until you've been at it for a little bit and going, you know what, I'm going to keep at this. Like, I enjoy doing this. I care about doing this. I feel like I'm getting better at doing this every time that I come in here and I work. So, like, if you're at that point, yes, start investing. But to start off with, find your free resources. Like, honestly, 100%. Find your free resources and just get in here and play around. Mess around in here and see if you even enjoy doing it. Because honestly, some people get in here and they invest tons of money. They buy the full FL all fucking all plugins edition and stuff. You know, and at the end of the day, half of the stuff that they buy they never use, or they give up on actually producing music after about 3 to 6 months because. I hate to tell you all this, but it's work. Like, no matter how much you love music, no matter how much you love making music, this is work. You're going to have to put in work. Like, those are the two things that people just don't seem to want to tell anybody about this venture, you know, about this hobby, or like I said, if you're going to make it a profession, about this profession, is that it's hard work. It's not easy. And you're going to have to invest. But today, we're not going to worry about any of that. Today, we're going to worry about how the heck you go about making a remix. So, step one, you got your DAW. Like I said, I use FL. There's Ableton, Logic. There's several other options. I'm not even going to try to name and list them all. There's plenty of other videos that you can watch exploring all the different DAWs and what they do. That's not why we're here. So, let's suppose you figured out which one you want to use and you got your DAW. Cool. Your next step, now you're going to have to find your song. What are you going to remix? Now, of course, generally, you'll start with something that you enjoy. Like, you don't necessarily want to try and remix the most popular song out right now. And I know a lot of people feel like, oh man, I'm going to go viral if I just remix the most popular song out here right now. Well, buddy, if you haven't remixed songs before, you don't want to do that. Like, that's a bad idea. Because you're going to come out the gate swinging for the fences and you're going to strike out. Like, that's just reality. These first couple attempts are not going to be that great, and like, if you ruin your first impression, then you're off to a bad start. So, what you want to start with is a song that you love, a song that you just know inside and out, because that's going to help you a lot. Maybe you've hummed the tune to the song over and over again in your head, like you've sung all the lyrics. You know this song. That's the one you start with, okay? Because, again, you're just learning this process. You're just figuring it out. And the easiest way to figure something out is to start with something you already kind of know, right? So if you pick a song that you already know, you're starting off great, all right? I've already done that. So I'm at a different point. I'm at that point where I am looking for some of the most popular songs. I am trying to have my viral moment. You know, I'm not gonna try to hide that. Like, that is what I'm working towards. I think that's what we're all gonna be working towards if you take on this venture. I think that's what all of us as bedroom producers are wanting. We're wanting our songs to get into a TV show or a movie or fucking, you know, to get 1 million plays or any number of that. We want people to enjoy what we make. And we also want it to be, I mean, just being honest, we want it to be lucrative, and we want it to not only fulfill us emotionally, but also maybe bring back a little financial benefit too. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard out here these days. So yeah, a little bit of money won't hurt nobody. Anyway, like I said, I'm at that point where I'm looking for that hit. I'm looking for that viral moment. So my wife is a little stay, and yeah, she loves the K-pop. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna do God's Menu. Like, it's already got a groovy sound. It's a lot of fun. Energy's there. It's at a good BPM for the type of music I produce, mostly rhythm and tear out. A little hard style here and there. So yeah, this seemed like a good choice for me. So first and foremost, I need a copy of the song that I can use in my DAW to reproduce the song. So of course we go to the tubes and we find a good copy. Now you'll see in my search bar up here, I've got God's Menu HQ. And you might be going, what the hell's the HQ? HQ is high quality. If you're going to pull in here and do this method, and let me first caveat by saying, if you own music that you have purchased, please use those copies. Okay? Don't come in here and do this. You're going to get a worse version if you pull it from here than if you actually take the MP3 that you purchased and throw it into your DAW. Okay? I can't stress that enough. If you love the music like that, purchase the good copy and then throw it in there. Now, for ease of most people who don't spend a ton of money, YouTube's free, honestly. That's where we're going to be going, is to YouTube. But if you're going to be on here looking in YouTube, put that HQ on there. They might not even have a high quality copy, but if they do, that's the one you want. Okay? So once we do that, we find our song. Ba-da-ba. We're going to take this up here, and we're just going to copy that. And then we're going to go to our search, to the old Googs, and we're going to put in this particular phrase. Okay? We all see that? I'm not going to say that. Just want y'all to see that. Do your search. Find the one you like. That's what you use to get your copy of the song. Okay? YouTube doesn't even like me talking about that, so that's all we're going to talk about it. But that's how you get your copy. All right? Moving along. The other thing we're going to need to know when doing a remix is what we're actually working with. And what I mean by that is, and let me back up here so you can just see. We need to come in here and we need to figure out, first of all, what key our song is in, okay? And that's basically what the root note of the song is our key in general, okay? If you don't know any music theory, none of that is necessary for this. You don't need to understand it. Just know that you need to know this information, okay? The other thing you need to know is the BPM of the song that you're working with. This is a must. Both of these are a must. You cannot make a remix without knowing these two things, okay? So what you're going to do, you're going to go in here, you're going to type that into the little Google, you're going to hit search, and then you're going to get this up here, unless you've turned it off. Ignore this, okay? This is in its infancy. This is often wrong, okay? What is normally correct are tune beat and song BPM. These two are going to be your best resources for this information. Now, I prefer tune beat. If I get a tune beat on here, I'm a happy guy. Okay, so we'll click on that tune beat, and now we're going to find out the two things we need to know. Our song is in F major. All right, that's our key. And It's at 157 beats per minute. Okay. You don't need to really understand the duration, or this Camelot, the 7B, is actually just another way to say F major. Like that's literally all it is. It's just a different way to say the same thing. I'm not going to go over what that actually is and how that works and stuff, because like, unless you're a DJ, it's not really important. I mean, realistically, you don't need to know how the Camelot wheel works unless you are trying to DJ. Because the rest of us, if you're just a producer, you're going to need to know the key, because that's what you produce in. You're going to produce in the key of whatever song that you're working in, okay? So we're in F major for this song, and we're at 157 beats per minute. That's what it was recorded at. Cool. Great. We have our information. Now, I've already begun this remix, which is a great thing because like we're so much further ahead than we would be if I showed you this from scratch, from the very beginning, because it's a lot of work. Again, I can't stress that enough. This is work. It's fun work, especially if you love music. It's fun work, but it's work. And there will be some frustrating moments in here. You have to accept that, okay? But get in here and we'll look around, and you see I've done a lot in here. Honestly, the only parts of the actual song that still exist here is this down here. Let me unhighlight that. The bass, the vocals, instruments, and drums. Now, you're probably wondering how the heck I got those. And let me show you, because it's really, really nifty. So, go to my downloads. And there it is. We'll grab this, and you can just, voila, drop it in your DAW. Isn't that nifty? Cool. Now you're going to see that this is not the same as this. And you're going to probably be wondering, well, why is that if they're the same song? The reason for that is we're going to go back to that thing we needed to know before we could even start doing this, which is how many beats per minute is the original song at. Now, in my project, I'm working at 150 beats per minute. You can see that up here. You can change that up there by scrolling up and down. You don't want to do that, because then you have to restretch all the channels, and it can take forever. Especially when you have as much stuff going on as I do. So, I'm going to Control Z and back out of that. But anyway, up there, that's where you'll set your BPM for the song that you want to work at. I mostly make dubstep, mostly tear out and rhythm. So I'm generally working anywhere from, on the lowest end, 135 to the higher end of 155. Generally, most of my stuff will be between 140 and 150. But we know that the song, God's Menu, well, that's at 157 beats per minute, right? And that's why this isn't fitting with these other parts, because these other parts have already been fixed. But I'm going to show you how to fix this one, all right? And FL Studio has this neat little thing called Fit to Tempo. I'm sure the Ableton and every other DAW has a version or some sort of tool like this. There's plenty of videos out there for you to watch to learn about all the different DAWs and what you can do in them. I have FL, so that's what we're going with. But in here, you're going to see this insanity. Don't trust FL to know what the hell the song is actually at. It just doesn't. What you do need to know, though, is what the song is at. We found that out earlier. It's at 157. And what you can do is come in here and just type in the BPM. So we know it's at 157. We do 157 and hit enter. And watch the magic happen. See there? Stretched it right out for us. Okay? It's a nifty little tool. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that every DAW has some sort of version or capability to do that. All right. So the thing about that you really have to pay attention to is this, when you convert this, it needs to be in the BPM that the song was recorded in, okay? Not the BPM that you're working in. If you put in 150 for the BPM to set this to, it's going to be all wrong. Totally, completely wrong, okay? So make sure the BPM that the song was recorded in, that's the BPM you fit to tempo, all right? Moving on. Next thing you're going to do, and again, you're going to see this here. I've just got God's menu here, but up here we see God's menu vocals, God's menu bass. Don't worry about this. We'll go over that in a minute. God's menu instruments, God's menu drums. Okay. Where did I get those? Well, again, FL has a nice little feature. If you just come in here and you click this little guy right here, this little arrowy looking thing, clicky, and that'll bring up this drop down menu. We're going to go in here. You've got a lot of options in here, okay? And like, if I end up making a few more of these videos, like I'll probably go over what all these do. But the one you need to know, the two you need to know now is fit to tempo and extract stems from sample, okay? We click that and we get some options, all right? I'm not going to go into your computer's capabilities, but let's say if this is taking forever to actually do it, or it's causing your system to crash, you'll want to limit CPU usage and click safe mode, okay? That depends on your system. I'm not judging or giving any advice on that. That's just, if it becomes a problem, that's how you'll try to address it, okay? I don't like this option, assign to new mixer tracks. Yeah, that generally will be on though. And I'm not a fan of that. It also has the option to group playlist tracks, so it would group them up here. If you'll see that this, and this, they're all track 3 and 4. They're attached to track 2. Okay, and that's what assigning to new mixer or group playlist tracks would do. It would group all them together underneath this song. Now I'm not going to go through here and do this again because I've already done it. But I just wanted to show y'all how you do it, okay? Under the do nothing, you also have some options to mute the source clip. So that would be the original one that you extract the stems from. You can mute that clip. Or you can mute the whole track that clip is on. So that'd be track 20. And if you chose mute source track and then extract, it's going to mute track 20. Okay? Real simple, real easy, built into the system. Now, you only have 4 options: drums, instruments, bass, and vocals. All right? It's kind of limiting. Just to be honest, it's kind of limiting, especially if you have a truly very dynamic song that you're working on that has a lot of different instruments, a lot of different layers and stuff. Your best extraction on those is going to be the drums and the vocals and the bass generally. But your instruments, if there's a lot of different instruments and a lot of things going on at one time, it can be a little tricky. Okay, but this is what you start with. All right, extract, and now you get these other things. You get vocals, you get bass, you get instruments, you get drums. Okay, now if you'll notice, my drums are over halfway gone. The instruments are pretty much entirely gone. And instead of those, you'll see here all these patterns. These patterns are where I took these instruments, figured out the noises they were making, and reproduced them. Now, the reason I touch on that is because there's really 2 different types of quote-unquote remixes, all right? You have remixes and then you have flips. So in a true remix, you're going to do stuff like I've done here. You're going to come in, you're going to find these melodies, find the chords, find the bass lines, and you're going to reproduce them with your own sounds. all the way through the entire track. Okay? That's a remix. That's a traditional, true remix. It gives your own style to everything in the song. Then you have flips, okay? And a flip, if you look up here, I've broken down this whole song into its different parts. So if you do a flip, you wouldn't have all of this up here. You would just have these parts. You'd have the drums, the instruments, the vocals, and the bass all grouped up together right there, right? But once you got here to this drop section, that's when you would change to your stuff. So you would create a whole new drop, and you would drop your drop into their existing song. And generally you get 2 drops, sometimes 3 in a song. So those would be your focus. You would not worry about any of the rest of this stuff. You would only worry about replacing the drops. That's a flip. Okay? They're different things, and they require different levels of work. So what I'm working with here, I'm doing a full remix. So I've had to learn patterns. I had to get the bass line. I had to learn the chords that go along with it. Now, luckily, I've been doing this long enough that I've learned how to do all those things. And I'm going to show you how to do those things because I know how. So, in order to get, let's start here. This is my bass line, right? Yes. I'm using good old Sub Destroyer. You can use a lot of different items to create these sounds. I'm not going to go through sound design. I'm not even that good at it. So just watch some other videos on that sort of thing if you want. But generally, you can just come in here and use the built-in generators in here and find something that offers a good sub. Flex is a neat little tool in here. The 3x oscillator, you can build a sub in there. Plenty of videos on how to do that. Not going to explain that for you now. Just understand that there's plenty of different virtual instruments in here that will allow you to create a sub where you can come in here and you can lay this bass line. Okay? Real simple. Now, how did I get this bass line? That's the question. How did I get that bass line? And the answer to that is nifty little tools that are built right into FL Studio. So, one of the tools, and let me bring this up over here. Just as a side note, I have all of my things detached. So yeah, my mixer is detached, and my channel rack is also detached. Channel rack. So, I have an extra screen, so it gives me more real estate. So, I keep those over on my extra screen. But I brought this over here to show you this. What you're going to want to do is go to your master channel, and then on any slot in here, honestly, because you're going to delete it when you're done. You'll want to go in here and you'll want to open up Wave Candy. All right. Well, you'll get to that. You go in here. You can go through and just see if you find it here. It's a big list of a lot of stuff. There's Wave Candy here under a visual Wave Candy. If you don't find it there, you can go into your entire plugin library. I have a lot of stuff. But yeah, so if you pop in there, you can find the one you want, and the guy you want is Wave Candy. Wave Candy. And again, you want it on the master channel. All right? So once you open up Wave Candy, generally it's going to open up like this, okay? This will be, see this little guy down here? Yeah. This will be visible when you open this up most often. If it's not, click this, turn it orange, make it visible. I mean, not necessarily orange. It depends on your theme. We're not going to go into that. Just click the button. If it's not there, it'll show up. The other thing is, generally it'll start off on oscilloscope. We don't want that for our purposes, okay? What we want is spectrum, all right? Now, once we have that set up, what we're going to do is we want to drag this and make it big so that we can see a lot of information. Now, this spectrum here that we've chosen will bring up a spectral analyzer, so a waveform analyzer, on this other slightly translucent screen, okay? And what we're going to see is just a waveform come across here, and that waveform is going to tell us what notes are being played by whichever track that we've chosen to single out. Now, one of the things that you're going to want to do as soon as you open this up is take this scale, which will be down here, and turn it all the way up. You want to see, let me bring this back over here so it's a little easier to see. You want to see this little white and black keyboard over here. It's called a piano roll within here, within FL Studio and most DAWs. This sort of sideways piano keys, we call a piano roll. This roll you can't input to. This roll is an output roll. So what this does is, let me single out. So we want to find the notes in this bass, right? So if we right click here on track 22, that will single this out. You see how everything else went a little dark, but this is still light? It's because we've singled out this particular track, okay? What you'll also want to do is come in here and highlight a portion of that section. Now, in order to do that, you'll hold Control, and then you'll click the left mouse, and then you'll drag it to your desired destination. Really simple. I'm not going to go over everything in FL Studio, how to do all these things, because again, there are plenty of other wonderful videos by other creators to explain all of that stuff to you, and you may not even use this DAW. So what I need you to understand is the theme or the idea, okay? And not necessarily the exact execution, all right? So the idea is we want to single out and separate a specific section of a specific sound on a specific track. Okay, that's what we've done here. And what this will do is, once we do that, if we click play here, it's just going to play that one section over and over again. It'll just repeat and repeat and repeat. But that's where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. And not just when you're making remixes either. When you're building your own music, a great portion of that time is you just listening to something over and over and over again. Some people can find it very tedious. It's one of those things where I say, don't invest too much into doing this until you know you really want to do it. Like, I'm a couple $1,000s deep into this hobby that's making me no money, but I love it. I enjoy every minute that I'm in here making music, even when I get frustrated, because generally I'll come out the other end and I'll have something that I really enjoy. So I enjoy the process, so I've invested in it. But make sure you're going to enjoy the process before you invest in it. Don't go throw a bunch of money at stuff, right? Just don't buy all the equipment. Don't buy all the things. Don't throw a bunch of money at this. Start off with the cheapest or free versions of stuff that you can get, and just play with and work on things to see if you even enjoy doing it, you know? All right, now back to the process. So let me come in here and zoom in so you can see stuff better. Again, people can teach you how to do this in FL, but I'm just shortening up the scroll bar up here, which will cause us to actually zoom in on our waveforms and our patterns that we're working on. Okay, get this out of my way. A Cool. Now, back to Wave Candy and what Wave Candy does. Again, spectrum analyzer. It analyzes the waveform. This little piece of a sample right here, that's what provides the waveform. Really simple. This plays a thing. This reads it as a physical representation of this. Very simple. All right. So what you want to do, again, single out that one fragment that you want to work with. If you leave all this other stuff in here, you're going to get way too much information over here to actually use the information you're given. Okay? So it's important. Make sure you're singling out specific tracks and working on them one track at a time. Once you figure those out, then you can bring all this stuff back in together and you'll have your remix, basically. Okay? So now what we're going to do, we're going to play, and you'll see those yellow lines being created there. Now, the snowflake is important. Click the snowflake, and it stops this scroll. So even though this is still playing, this is stopped. Okay? We're going to stop playing. Now, what we have now is information. And we have two pieces of information, very useful information here. Number one, we have what note is being played by this bass track right here. So what note is it? And if we go over here and we look way down here in this, see where it says hertz and it's going up and down? If we go up just a little bit higher, because it starts at C1, and we put it right over top of the dark yellow line down there, we'll see that it says F1 at 43 hertz. So that's the note that we're looking for. All right? So when you go in here and you create a new pattern, just to show y'all how you do that, you'll literally go up here where it says pattern, and mine's on pattern 5 at the moment. Just scroll up until you get to an empty one. And you know it's empty because if you look over here, it's on a different screen and I'm a dumbass. So you'll know it's empty because if you look over here on the channel rack, you won't see anything on the inputs. Now watch what happens when we scroll back through here, though. You see there? Those are all your patterns represented on different layers of sounds, okay? But each one of these, if you see something here on the channel rack, that means the pattern already has some sort of instrument attached to it. So we go up here, 18, 19, boom, this one's new. Everything's empty. Everything's clear, okay? That's all you have to do to create a new pattern in FL. Super simple. Once you do, though, you got to bring that into your DAW. So what you want to do, left click, pull it in, just drag it over here, drop it in, boom. There you go. Now your pattern is in the DAW. Now, you want to add notes to this, all right? Again, super simple. If you come up here to the top, you're going to see this, what looks like 3 or 4 piano keys and some little stairs beside them, okay? Those represent notes. That represents your piano roll. See, piano roll. And we're on Sub Destroyer, okay? That's important. Make sure that's on the thing that you want to actually use to make the noise, okay? So this says Sub Destroyer, but you'll see here I have tons of other options. These are all of my plugins. So these are virtual instruments through here. Synths, a virtual piano, and a sub oscillator. These are automations. It's where I've made things do things. We're not going to go into that. Again, plenty of other people, plenty of other videos, or I can go into all of this in depth at a later date. We're not going to do that today, though. Okay, so up here, these are all my audio samples I've got in here, and if you'll click right here, you'll see, boom, tons of audio samples. And when you're doing remixes, you're going to see a ton of these. Also, if you work the way I do, you'll see a ton of these because I actually work I actually work here on the samples, so I bring in samples and actually build in here. Some people, especially with drum patterning and stuff, will actually build here in the channel rack. If you click these, it'll make notes. So I should be on 19, right? Yeah. So let me do this, and then we'll zoom back in on that. So if you look down here at pattern 19, you'll see these little arrows here. That's just, you click one of these, on or off. Left click to click on, right click to click off. And those will actually translate out into notes in the pattern down here. Not a fan of using that particular method. Just me, my workflow. You try everything out and figure out which one works best for you. I mean, honestly, I can't tell you what's best because it's a subjective thing. All right. I can tell you that generally, if I bring a sample directly in here to work on, I find I get a more crisp and clean sound, and also a bit louder sound that I can work with. So, personal preference on this. It's ease of use and also what sounds better to you, quite honestly. We're making music, right? So it's all down to what sounds good. And if you're the one making the music, it's about what sounds good to you, you know? Now, after you make the music, some people might be like, hey man, that sounds like crap to me. And then you can adjust accordingly. But you want to start off when you're in here doing this, do what sounds good to you. Trust your ears. If you have any inkling of ability in this area, it'll come to you. Like, you'll hear when things are really off. You're not going to hear all of the little things right off the bat. You're not going to have just those magical ears that can hear every little problem and tweak every little thing down to the lowest micrometer and stuff. But if you have even just pretty decent ears for melody and note clashing, if two notes clash and you notice that and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound good, then you're off to a good start here. Because a lot of people can't really hear that. There are people that are honestly tone deaf, and they don't know when something is way out of whack. So if you're not tone deaf, you're doing great. It's a great start. All right. Now, we're going to get in here, and like I said, we have found the note that this is on, F1, right? But what we've also found out is, oh, there's a pattern to this. Do. See, there's a pattern to that. Now, when we come in here and open our piano roll, where I've already worked in here, what we're going to see is that pattern is important. And you'll notice that my notes line up with their notes. Mostly. And there's a reason that they don't fully line up. And there's also a reason that these bass notes don't come all the way back to the grid. And that's called side chaining. And I'm not going to teach you about that. Not today anyway. Again, plenty of other videos. Or I'll get to it at another time. If I get comments on here and y'all actually want me to talk about stuff, like I'll talk about all of it. Like, I'm not a professional, but like, I understand what I should be doing and just don't always understand why it didn't fucking resonate with other people, And sometimes I'm at a little bit of a loss, but, neither here nor there. Okay, but again, we found our note, F1. Oh, look, piano roll, F1, yay. And then we found our pattern. Bah, 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 bah. So it's hard to see this pattern juxtaposed with this, right? These are different sizes and stuff, and yes, I can make them match just by adjusting this, bringing it out, and then, oh, okay, yeah. But you don't know exactly how to get that to that size. So that's not useful, okay? What this is useful is showing you there is a pattern and what notes are being played at what time. Okay? What we have to do then is we have to go in here and we put our pattern next to the thing that we're wanting to copy. And then we just drag. So we can put a note in just by clicking left. And then once we have notes in there, we can just drag to where we want them. Sorry, I didn't want to leave that where it was. Had to undo some things because that would have messed me up a little bit. All right, so there we go. We figured out the pattern. We know the notes. In order and the way that I found these other notes and stuff is literally I just let this play longer. That's all I did. Let this play longer. Break it down into sections that you can deal with. Do one section at a time. Move on to the next section. This is as big as the Wave Candy screen gets, so you're only going to be able to get so much information at one time. Okay. So break it down into manageable pieces. I've found that generally you can work in anywhere up to 8 bars. So let me do that. So 8 bars. That's about as much as you can get onto one screen for Wave Candy here. Okay? That's about as big as you can get. However, I recommend generally starting with 4 bars. Okay? Get your 4 bars, get your next 4 bars. It's going to take longer, but you're less likely to make mistakes. Okay? Take your time when first starting this. Yeah, I do 8 bars every time. I've been making remixes for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. So, I'm at a point now where sometimes I don't even have to pull up Wave Candy. That's neither here nor there. You're going to need to pull this up. You're going to need to find these notes. And you're going to need to see these patterns and understand them. And quite honestly, working in 4-bar stretches will be the best way to start out with that. Until you feel comfortable with it, until you feel good with it. And then you can move on to larger chunks and work on those chunks a little bit faster and get through them a little bit faster. As you do this, and the more you do it, the faster things will roll, okay? You'll get to a point where this only takes you, this work that I've done should only take maybe 2 to 3 hours once you reach the level I'm at, quite honestly. I generally will tend to produce an entire song in an 8-hour stretch. That's not necessarily all the way finished. There's generally a little bit of mixing and final touches to put on it after that. But I'm honestly at a point where generally I can write a song in about 8, maybe 10 hours. I can do remixes in about that same amount of time, sometimes quicker. And that's not me bragging. It's just saying that's where you're going to get eventually. If you do this long enough, that's where you will be too. I'm not special. Don't take it that way. I'm not special. I just I've been doing it long enough to where I've got a workflow. I understand what I'm doing, so I can get it done faster. And again, you're going to reach that point. If you keep at it, you're going to reach that point too. It's not difficult. It's just work. All right. So we're at the point, we got our stems, got everything separated out. Now we're using Wave Candy. We're finding patterns. Yes, things are going great. Okay. Now, generally for a remix, the one thing that you're not going to mess with are the vocals. So in general, unless you're going to chop these up and do a little magic with these, a little sampling magic with the vocals, you're not even going to have to touch those. So if you're not chopping up or doing anything with the vocals other than maybe adding a little touch here and there on the end to spice it up a little bit, maybe some reverb, a little sound goodizer or something, just a little touch of something to make it sparkle a little bit more. Other than that, you're generally not going to touch the vocals. So awesome sauce. You don't even have to worry about those. What you're going to start with, however, are the drums. Almost always. Okay, it's not 100% always start with the drums, but and this is a big but. If you don't have a pattern in the back, so like you can turn on the metronome if you want. I use that so little. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So if you click that little thing, it's a metronome, and then when you play stuff, it'll tick. You hear that in the background. Hold on. Yeah, that's the metronome. So you turn that on, it'll tick in the background. That'll help you keep time. But I don't use that. That's more for if you're like recording in stuff. Okay, so the way you're going to keep time when you're actually building, and so that you can hear what the heck you're doing, is by actually building your drums first. I mean, when you start out, that's just where you want to start. Just no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to want to start with your drums. Okay, I'm just going to show a little better piece right here. I don't know. I can do a little more than that because this isn't their stuff, and as long as I keep the vocals out, and this is also not what I'm going to use for this, so like this was a test run. But I'll just show you here basically an understanding of why you want the drums, because if we play and we have no context for how that's going to sound with drums, and especially how that's going to sound when it's sidechained. Now, I've already set up my sidechaining. Again, not going into that unless y'all want another video. So I've already set up my sidechaining. I've already run my channels. So these are being sidechained now, and if I throw the drums in there, now we have something a little different. See the difference? Yeah. So it matters. And it's one of those things where realistically you don't want to try to produce anything in a solo context. Okay? So like I don't want to build this without the drums because I don't know how the song is going to sound. All right? So if you just come in here and you just, I think we can go here. If you just come in here and you're working with this pattern, and just this pattern, you don't know how that fits in the mix. You don't know how that sounds with everything else. And unless you add other stuff in there with it, you won't know how that sounds. See? Very different. Very different. And I can't play any of the actual, like, any of the melody and stuff, obviously, because, you know, again, trying to get copyright striked on this one. And what's funny is when I release it as a remix, I'll get a copyright warning, but I won't get a copyright strike. They're different, which is, yeah, it's a YouTube thing. You'll figure it out. But yeah, generally, you can remix most songs. Most labels at this point have said, hey, man, yeah, you can remix stuff, and you just can't monetize it. Like that's really what it comes down to. You can't monetize remixes. Understand that. Remixes are not going to make you money. Period. Okay? Remixes draw in a fan base, and they help solidify your style. Okay? So that's why you do remixes. And because you enjoy it, and because you're trying to teach yourself the tricks of the trade. Like the basic amount of music theory that you need to be able to do this. Like, it's a learning process. So yeah, make remixes. You're not going to make money off of them. Don't worry about that. We make remixes for different reasons. All right? You get out there to Subtronics and Rave Opie level, and yeah, you can actually do remixes and make money. It's crazy. But you'll be working with those other artists. So like, it's a win-win, right? I'd love to work with fucking Subtronics and Rave Opie. You kidding me? Yeah. Love it. All right. So here we are. I've showed you how to find patterns. I've showed you how to use Wave Candy to find the notes in various things. Now, Wave Candy can only do so much. That's just the reality of it. Wave Candy can only do so much, and because of how the stem separation works here in FL Studio, the fact that you only get an instruments stem, which is all the instruments except for the drums and the bass, it can be very hard to pick out exact patterns and things of that nature within the songs. Um, I could recommend a couple different um, a couple different online options or paid options to do stem separation. Lol AI and Fader are good options there, but again, you got to pay for these. I mean, they're not cheap, but they will get granular. So if you're trying to pull a guitar riff from a whole sample of a whole song, they can get that granular. They can pull your guitar, they can pull the piano separate from everything else. They can get that granular to give you the one single instrument. Now, are they perfect stems? No, but you have instruments whose note ranges and stuff cross over into different overlap with each other, so sometimes you can't catch all the notes for a flute when you also have a piano that's playing in the high 6 to 7 octave as well. So they're not going to be perfect, but they will go beyond the little bit that Wave Candy can show you. So start with Wave Candy. If you've got a really good sample, you're going to get pretty good results out of Wave Candy. If you don't have a great sample, Wave Candy can only do so much again. Okay. So what do you do? What do you do if Wave Candy can't give you the information that you want, right? It's not telling you the melody. It's not telling you the chord structure. Um, you can't even pull the bass line from it. What do you do now? Well, there is an answer, and that answer involves going back to our good old friend, the Googles. Okay? This option is not necessarily going to be available for every single song. Okay? But it's worth looking. Just quite honestly, it's worth doing a quick Google search just to see, hey, can I find this thing that will make this process so much easier? And the thing that will make it so much easier is we're doing the song that I'm remixing right now. So we're gonna do God's Menu, and then we're gonna type two more words. Easy. Where, if I could type correctly, easy piano. Right. So name of the song, possibly the artist, if the name of the song is a name that can be multiple songs. So name of the song, name of the artist, if necessary, and then just the two words "easy piano." And you're like, what the hell is that going to do? It's going to do everything if it returns a good search. Okay, and this one returned more than one. All right, here's one. Here's one. And I think that's the same one. No. So that's a whole different one, right? This is the one I used. Let's take a look. What is this? Right? Okay. Again, can't play it. Don't want to get copyright striked. But this is what you'll look for. This is I'm not going to say the holy grail, but this is somewhat of a holy grail for finding the actual melodies and chord structure of songs. Okay, so what this is this pianella piano. So yeah, this is an awesome rendition. So if you're looking for these, I'd definitely check out these channels. There's a lot of channels that do this. Some are recommendable, some are not. You're just going to be hit and miss. Okay, this is not a tried and true. Oh yeah, this is the way to do it. No, but especially if the song is popular, there generally will be an easy piano tutorial somewhere on YouTube, right? And that's what you need to find. So you come in here and you go to the Easy Piano tutorial, and look, you've got all these notes just scrolling by, and they coincide with this whole piano roll down here. And then let me make this super big. If you look over here, you see this 2 right here. That actually corresponds. So if I bring up a piano roll in here, right, that 2 that you saw there, that corresponds with this 2 right here. So you got 1, 2. That's part of that's your first bar, okay? And 1 to 5, that's your first 4 bars of the song, all right? So when somebody says 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, that's what they're talking about. All right? So, sorry. Okay, so that 2 up here that I zoomed in to show you, that just shows you where on the piano roll that starts. So if you look, this 2, and if you kind of just bring the cursor over, you'll see that 2 lines up with the front of this F, and that's how you know in here on the piano roll, it would be, that note would be right there. There we go. So that note would be right there. It would start at the 2. You see? Okay. The one thing that you're going to have to figure out is the note length, but luckily you've got the song on hand, you know? So in order to figure out the note length, you just put the notes in here to what they look like. These look like short notes, maybe only 16ths or No, 8ths. Yeah, so maybe only 8ths or quarter notes. Sorry. Like I said, I don't really know music theory, so yeah, sorry. Anyway, but you'll put those in there what you think they might line up at, and then once you put them in, you'll go back and you'll play the song along with the part that you're working on. And you'll just make sure that the patterns match up. And we know they match up because I can turn that off. And turn it back on. We hear no distortion. So if your notes were wrong, let me show you. We're going to mess this up intentionally. Did you hear that vibration? Let's listen again. I'll add another note to it. You hear how there's a slight vibration and stuff. It's because these notes that I've moved up here no longer coincide with the notes down here they're supposed to coincide with. And you're going to get, especially like you're going to be producing in headphones. So within your headphones, you'll hear the out of phase distortion, okay? Where the 2 notes aren't aligning. Like as you do it more and more, you'll hear it more and more. You'll become able to like figure out, oh, that note's wrong, and you can just move it up or down until they sync. So where you don't have that phase distortion anymore, to where you're hearing sort of like fuzz on the back end or things sound a little awkward. You'll just move the note in line up or down until you reach the point where they coincide and you equal out that distortion, so where everything sounds right. Okay, little tricks of the trade. Again, you'll learn these over time. The more you do this, the better you're going to get at it. Honestly, I don't think anybody comes out here actually trying and working to produce music that's gotten worse as they produce. So, like, keep working. You'll get better. All right. So I've showed you the holy grail, should I say, of finding melodies and stuff. Now, there is a sort of holy grail of the holy grails, and that is MIDI output. Okay, so what is MIDI? Well, MIDI, in terms of what we're thinking about, okay, are these notes. And these notes here can actually be translated out into a MIDI file. So if you'll see down here, you'll see notes here, but when I click that, it doesn't play anything. Now, normally, if you come in here and you pull a sample, let me just pull a hat. See, when I click it, it plays stuff. This one, however, when I click it, it doesn't play anything. But if I take this and just left click, hold on, let me bring my channel rack over here where y'all can see this, okay? If I just left click and take this and drag it to whichever instrument I want it to go to, boom. That MIDI has been put into that particular instrument on that channel. Okay? So basically, I could take this, I could convert it to MIDI, and then I could plug it back in, and it would produce these same notes in the piano roll. Nifty little trick. Now, yeah. Okay. So I don't want those. I don't want to mess up my stuff. But again, the sort of holy grail of holy grails, if you don't want to take the time to sit here and figure out where each one of these notes, let me pull one of these up. This is the melody pattern for this song. And I had to go in here and just lay these notes where they're supposed to. I had to make sure it fit up with the pattern of the song by listening to the instruments, make sure everything fit everywhere correctly. But if you can find, and honestly, these easy piano are the best for this. If you just take that, do what we did earlier to get our song. You remember the to MP3s? Yeah. So if you do that, you'll create a new MP3. You can then bring that back over here and use a plugin called Neural Note. This plugin is absolutely free and it's absolutely baller. Okay? What this program does is if you take a WAV file or an MP3 and you drag it in here. So let me pull up something real quick. Okay. And I'm going to pull up, so I went and grabbed that piano tutorial, right? And if I put that in here, give it a few minutes, boom. This has just created a MIDI file of that song. Now, this is not perfect. Understand that. This is not perfect, okay? It generally will get the notes right, and especially if you're starting off with one of, like I said, the easy piano, like the easy piano stuff, is because the reason I say that is just because they have generally, and especially when you do easy piano, they generally only have singular notes in here. Okay, they won't have full-on chords, which are 3 notes stacked on top, 3 to 5, 7 notes stacked on top of each other to create a chord. They won't have those. They'll have these single note patterns, and then sometimes they'll also have a bass line down here. Okay, so those are the ones you want to look for if you're going to try to game the system, so to speak, and get in here and you let Neural Note do its job. Then those easy piano versions, these are the holy grail. Again, holy grail for doing that. Okay, but again, like I said, this program is not perfect, so it will generally give you the correct notes and everything. But you're honestly going to have to listen to the song and make sure that you get these notes in the right spot. Okay, because the person playing the easy piano version, they might not be playing at 157 beats per minute, right? They don't necessarily know that the song's that. Or maybe they don't like odd numbers, so they're playing it at 150 beats per minute. Or maybe they're playing it at 100 beats per minute because they're playing it slow to help you be able to understand it better. So understand that this MIDI file that you're able to produce from Neural Note is not always going to be 100% on point or correct, okay? But it's going to give you the notes correctly, especially if that Easy Piano version had all the right notes. It's going to give you the right notes, and it's going to give you a general symbolism of the pattern. So you'll just have to move the notes and negotiate them and get them to line up where they need to on the grid to match with the original music that you're trying to copy, okay? That's the process, all right? So you go through here, you listen to everything, you recreate everything with your patterns. Come in here, recreate everything, use your own personal sounds, use your own drums, and not necessarily your own drums. Like these drums come from sample packs, obviously, but what I'm saying is I've arranged them specifically. I've done some post-processing on them. They're mine. These drums aren't exactly like the drums that were already in the song. The patterning is different. Like, in general, that's how you add your own uniqueness to it. So the hardest parts, honestly, are just getting the key and beats per minute correct to line up with your chosen beats per minute, making sure you're on key with everything. And because that's super important, because if I come over here and this whole song is in F major, and then I decide, oh man, I'm going to do a drop over here, and I do my drop in, let's say, D minor, there's going to be a serious clash between the recreation of the song, the main parts, the verses, build, and all that, and this drop where I've put it into a totally different octave, okay? So knowing that this is in F major means that this needs to be in F major too. So this is where I'm building my drop, right? Now, in FL Studio, there's a great way to make sure you do that, okay? Come in here to your piano roll, and you only have to do this once. But you'll come up here and click on that arrow. It'll bring up this drop-down menu. You're going to go to View. You're going to scroll over here. You're going to go to Scale Highlighting. If you scroll off of this, they won't disappear, so you can make mistakes here a little bit. If you scroll down to other stuff, won't show up either. So, if you'll notice here, I've got a little white dot for major Ionian and a little white dot besides F, and that means this is already keyed to F major, right? But if you come in here, it's going to be either on default, which shows you no note highlighting. Okay, I didn't want to do that. I don't know what that did, but let's not do that. Yeah, so if you come in here and see, this is just all the same color, right? But if we go back in there to our view and scale highlighting, and then if we right-click into major Ionian, it won't close out this window. It'll allow us to also pick our note. So right-click your major or minor scale, and then left-click your note. So I want an F, boom. Now, you see these darker lines and lighter lines? That's now super important. And what that tells you is the notes you can use and the notes you can't use. What am I talking about? Okay. So these dark lines here are notes that are not in the F major scale. These notes do not belong with F major. If you play these notes where it's this darker color, it's not going to sound right because those notes are not in scale. Any of these lighter spaces, however, are totally in scale. So basically what this tells us is once you put your viewpoint into a scale, you can put a note anywhere in here, and as long as it's on one of those white spots, all of these notes will sound fine together. Right? Yep, that's not the part. Let me bring it back over here. That's not it. Come here. There it is. Okay, let's try that again. That was the wrong instrument to pick. That was not an instrument. My bad. All right, let's go. This should probably be okay. Let's try that. No, also not a good one. Let's get rid of that. Nope. We're gonna figure it out, guys. I know. What am I doing here? I'm being a dumbass. Anyway, just to try and show you an example here, but when you've set up your scale highlighting in there through the view and scale highlighting, and you've chosen everything in here, once you've done that, if you put a note on one of these white spaces, it's going to match everything else in that key. Okay, so as long as you always put a note where a white space or a lighter space is, you're golden. Like it's almost impossible to write something that's out of key if you just do that. So very important. Come in there, do your scale highlighting, make sure that you're in key. And again, that's why we found out what key this song was in, right? So remember back at the beginning, we went and we found the key in BPM. No, it's in the key of F major. We set our viewpoint, our scale viewpoint to F major. Boom, we're in here. So even if we don't play the actual notes that they were playing, we can play something that's in the same scale, and as long as it's an accompanying melody of some sort, like our patterning is as long as our pattern works with the existing patterns, then we're going to be good. You know what I mean? So like, you couldn't necessarily create an offbeat section that's the right notes in the right scale, but like, let's say it's in it's using sixth notes and you're using quarter notes in the other part. A lot of that stuff it'll be off. Okay, so it's not always just about the notes you play. Yes, if you play these lighter notes, those are going to be the right notes for the key that you're working in. But you also have to make sure that you complement what's already there or what else you're building. Okay, so just little important things that it's good to know to start with. Okay, so you go through the process, right? You've rebuilt this whole song. Boom. Got the drops in there. All sounds good. Got rid of everything. The only stuff that you're keeping is pretty much the vocals and maybe a few of the little instrument parts where you like, oh, that sounds good layered together with what I created, which is fine. You're welcome to keep part of these instrument sections if it sounds good with what you've created also. Or again, if you're doing a flip, you keep all those sections and you just do the drops and just concern yourself with the drops. Again, though, you still need to make sure you're on key. So you got to be in key, even if all you're going to do is a flip and replace the drops. So key always matters. Always, 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 every single time. But yeah, that's basically it. That's my process for doing a remix. You know what I mean? And quite honestly, it took a while to figure out all these different options and different things that I could use to help me get to this point. But at this point, I've done it so much that it's become like second nature. You know, I can run through a lot of this stuff, and it's a great feeling to be able to come in here and know that I have a workflow and a path to create whatever I want to create. Okay. Like I said before, you're going to get better at doing this the more you do it. So, like, just produce. Just come in here, open up your DAW, and make music. Just start messing with things. You're going to make stuff that sounds horrible. It's fine. You don't have to put it on YouTube. You don't have to show it to anybody else. But what you're going to do when you make that horrible music is you're going to learn. You're going to learn what you did wrong. At least if you're paying attention. You're going to learn, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. That didn't work at all. You know? And with music production, it's really good to know what works, but it is really so much better to know what doesn't work. You know, if you can avoid like very common mistakes in here, you're going to help yourself so much. So like, you need to make the mistakes, but just make sure you're learning from them. You know, don't produce something terrible and then just erase it and try and erase it from your memory. That's not the thing you do. Produce something that's terrible, leave it in your projects, open that project up once in a while, and just see if you can do anything with it. Because like the more that you produce outside of that project, the more you're going to grow. You might find something usable in that. I mean, it didn't come from no idea at all, right? It came from some idea and it just didn't go to the right place. So, like I said, just keep doing it. Get in here, open up the DAW, just produce, man. Just make music. And you don't have to make electronic music. You can make any sort of music that you're into, but just get in here and do it. You know what I mean? Just open up the DAW and start working. Because at the end of the day, it's work. Like, you're going to have to put in work to do this. But if you put in the work, you're going to get a good return. And I think you'll be really happy with the product you put out. Now, like I said, if y'all want another video or more videos with me just explaining all the tools of FL or like different parts of my process for actual original creation, or a more in-depth look at breaking down remixes and how to really get in there and add your own spark, just leave some comments, guys. Just leave some comments. Tell me what y'all want to see. Tell me what y'all want to learn, and I'll see what I can do. So I hope that helped people, and if it did, leave a like, consider subscribing. And, yeah, go listen to my music, man. Shit. Music's good. Go listen to my music. I'll see y'all later. Peace.